The directions state to divide, simplify each quotient. For problem A, we have 4/5 divided by 16/5. Now recall, we're being asked to divide two fractions, and to divide two fractions, we must multiply by the reciprocal. So we rewrite the problem, and now it states 4/5 times 5/16. Now that it's written in terms of multiplication, well, we know how to do that. That is top times top, bottom times bottom. So in this case, let's go ahead and factor the numerators. The first numerator is 4. 4 can factor to give us 2 times 2. The other numerator is 5, which is prime, so it will remain a 5. Now we turn our attention to the denominator. First denominator is a 5. 5 cannot factor, so it will remain. And then the other denominator is made up of 16, but we need to factor it. Now 16 is made up of 4 times 4, but 4 can factor into 2 times 2. So ultimately 16 factors into 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Now that we have all the factors laid before us, we're ready to reduce or simplify this fraction. Notice we have a pair of 2's that's a common factor, another set of 2's as a common factor, and 5 is a common factor. Once we have removed the common factors, we see that the numerator is left with 1 times 1 times 1, and the denominator is 2 times 2, giving us an answer of 1/4. Let's look at another example. For B, we have 3/8 divided by 3/10. Now again, remember, to divide fractions, we must multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction, making the problem now read 3/8 times 10/3. Since this is now written in terms of multiplication, and we know to multiply, it's always top times top, bottom times bottom. But to keep the number small, we are going to factor the values individually. So looking at the first numerator of 3, we recognize that is prime and cannot factor. We move to the other numerator, which is 10, and we know 10 can factor into 5 times 2. Now we put our attention in the denominator, and we see we have an 8. 8 can factor completely into 2 times 2 times 2. And then the last denominator is 3, which we know to be prime, cannot factor. With our factors before us, we're ready to reduce by removing any common factors. Notice we have a common factor of 3, and we have a common factor of 2, leaving us in the numerator 1 times 5, and in the denominator 2 times 2, making our answer 5/4. For example C, we have 7/10 divided by 14. Uh-oh, 14 is not a fraction. What do? Well, recall, we can make any value into a fraction by simply placing it over 1. So now the problem reads 7/10 divided by 14/1. Now that we are dividing two fractions, we can do our normal process of multiplying by the reciprocal of the second fraction, meaning our problem is now 7/10 times 1/14. We're ready now to multiply by doing top times top, bottom times bottom. 7 cannot factor, so it will remain a 7. 1 cannot factor, so it will remain a 1. In the denominator, we have 10 times 14. Well, 10 can factor into 5 times 2, and 14 can factor into 2 times 7. Now that we see our factors, we're ready to reduce. Notice we do have a common factor of 7, so those values reduce to 1. Now that we have reduced all the common factors, we're ready to find what our solution is going to be. In the numerator, we have 1 times 1, and in the denominator, we have 5 times 2 times 2, making our answer 1/20.